The federal acquisition lifecycle goes left to right, right? It includes steps to go from an idea to market research to request for proposal to award. And in order to increase your likelihood of winning, right, when you have this, you want to shift as far left, your efforts as far left in that sales cycle or that acquisition life cycle. And the earlier you can get engaged in an opportunity, the better. Today's training is about helping you shift left in so far left to the RFI and sources sought phase of the federal acquisition lifecycle that you're going to encounter, right? And I often hear people express disappointment that an RFI dropped or they missed an RFI, et cetera. Today, I'm going to teach you how to never miss an RFI that comes out on Sam.gov. It seems like a fundamental step, but that's what I like teaching, right? The basics. I don't like to teach you something magical and this one-off unicorn type tip. I like teaching you the very basics of success. When you have the foundational basics skill sets in place, you'll start winning more. It's just that simple, right? And so today I'm going to briefly cover why RFIs and sources sought are so important, so vital to your success in the federal market. And then I'm going to show you how to set up SAM the right way so that you always hear about new RFIs. And also, finally, I'm going to give you a system to put in place that I follow and that I teach others that you can use to rapidly review and triage or choose the best RFIs to respond to, right? You don't want to respond to all RFIs. And so how do you triage that quickly every single day? So if that's something you're interested in learning today, put shift left into the chat or into the comments. Put that in there if you understand that engaging earlier in the federal acquisition lifecycle is better for your success, right? So put shift left into the chat as we get rocking and rolling. Okay, so let's get diving into today's topic. It's going to be a fire hose. I'm going to talk for a little bit about today's topic, and then I'm going to go in and show you how to do what I'm saying to do. So first off, let's just stop for a second and say, what are RFIs and sources sought? Requests for information, RFIs, and sources sought are basically just the government's way of reaching out to industry and saying, hey, we've got this requirement coming out. We want to get your input. An RFI, theoretically, is when they want to talk about the requirements. They're requesting information generally about the requirements. A sources sought is when they're talking more about the acquisition approach. We're trying to see if we can set this aside to small business. We're trying to determine which contract vehicle to put on, et cetera. The challenge with RFI and sources sought as names is that really no two contracting officers do it the same way, right? So RFIs and sources sought, as far as I'm concerned, are the exact same thing. They're just the government giving us a heads up about an opportunity, and they're giving us a chance to respond. It's up to you on how you respond. And I've done a whole separate training on RFIs and sources sought are marketing stages. And so you can reply any way you want. You want to make sure you reply along the lines of what the buyer wants, but you can highlight your expertise. You don't have to address everything. So that's a separate training, but that's briefly what RFIs and sources sought are. It's an opportunity for you to get engaged and say, raise your hand and say, hey, I'm interested in this. I can help you. I'm going to be proposing probably. And so keep me in mind. Second thing is, why are RFIs and sources sought so vital? The number one reason I think RFIs and sources sought responses are so vital to your company is that it's a way to send a marketing message straight into the federal buyer who you may not even be able to meet or even know their names, and get something before them that speaks directly to their needs. And so let's talk about an example RFI. Somebody comes out and says, hey, I've got an RFI and it's on zero trust, a cybersecurity type approach. And you write a response saying, hey, we're great at cybersecurity and zero trust. We've done it at this agency. We've done it with you. We've done these things. When you send that response back, the acquisition team will see it. So the contracting officer, the small business specialist who is kind of an advocate for you, for all of us small businesses, right? And then the program office. If you're writing back a technical response about zero trust, the contracting officer really doesn't have a clue what's in that. It's not their requirement. It's the program office's requirement. And so the contracting officer sends the compliant responses down to the program office, who is made up of people who were potential decision makers on a contract award later on, right? And so, or influencers. And so you want those people to know who you are. And it's like, oh, company ABC, you're a zero trust company, and you've got these ideas. And if you write a really compelling response to an RFI or sources sought notice, then those people are going to look at it and perhaps even invite you back in. And so the biggest reason I think that sources sought and RFIs are so vital is it lets the buyer know who you are, and it showcases your domain expertise on and domain authority on a particular topic, your subject matter expertise on something. And so if you're writing to core competencies, then they're going to see that you're a good company to at least invite back to the bid, if not invite in ahead of time, just have conversations with. That's called capture, right? So number 3 thing I want to talk about is just going along that same idea is which RFIs as sources sought should you respond to, right? I believe you should respond to as many as you can within this constraint. You should only respond to sources sought and RFI notices that are in your sweet spot. You need to determine, what do you sell? It's a very simple question to ask, very hard question sometimes to answer. But what do you sell? Do you sell data, data analytics, data science? Do you sell cybersecurity? Do you sell elevator services or SharePoint, right? Knowing what you sell will then allow you to look at the RFIs and go, well, this RFI has nothing to do with SharePoint. I'm out of here. This RFI has everything to do with SharePoint. I'm writing to it. And then the last one is this RFI has 25% of SharePoint and the rest is unrelated. Well, I'm still going to respond to that, but I'm going to focus on the SharePoint part and tell them I'll team up to target the other task areas or something. But I'm going to showcase everything about SharePoint if it's only one of the 4 task areas or something, right? So when you think about which RFIs and sources sought you should respond to, make sure you're doing it in your core competency, what I call slam dunk opportunities. So if you understand you need to only be responding to RFIs that fall under your slam dunk opportunity world, just put slam dunk in the chat. Let me know you're with me and you're following with me on that. And as you do that, I'm going to take a sip of water and then we're going to switch in and I'm going to show you how to set this up. It's ironic that I'm drinking water as much as I just did, because I do speak at a fire hose level because I'm trying to get as much as I can to you. So, okay, there's a couple of things. I'm just going to tell you really quick what I'm going to do, and then I'll go in. I want to demo for you how do you find the RFIs and save them in SAM. Really straightforward task in there, but let me just show you the steps, and you can replay to watch it and do it later. Then I'm going to show you what a notification looks like, so that and how to set up the notification so SAM is sending you the information. And then finally, I want to talk to you about a system I put in place that just makes it easy for me to identify the emails coming in from SAM, triage it, look for the RFIs I want to respond to, and then how to let my team know, hey, I found one we should be tracking on. You can manage a lot of activity out there. Let me tell you one other thing as I'm just going into SAM. Sometimes it times out pretty fast. I just want to tell you one other thing. I'm going to go in and I'll show you this in a second. But when you look at a set of opportunities, I don't search on keywords anymore. When I'm talking about RFIs, I don't look at keywords and I don't look at NAICS codes or anything else. There's only going to be like 1,000 RFIs that are active at the moment. It sounds like a big number, but it really is not. How fast can you scroll through? And I'm going to show you, but how fast can you scroll through and find stuff? And the reason I say this is because as you go forward, every day you're only going to see at most like 50 new RFIs that might come on. That's a high day, I think, right? But every day you're going to see, let's say, 50 that are coming in. Well, you can scroll those pretty fast. And the reason I say you want to make sure you look at every RFI, including ones that are way out left field, because there's no consistency with how contracting officers put information into SAM or FPDS or any of these other tools. And so if you can just look at a title and a description and see it, it allows you to make sure you never miss anything. And that extra couple of minutes to look at every RFI title for every day potentially could lead to millions of dollars. And so it's well worth it. All right, let me go in and share my screen and walk you through this process. Okay, so I'm pretty positive I'm sharing my screen here and I'll see it myself in a second. And by the way, now I can't see chat at all. When I'm in sharing my screen, all I see is what you see. So I'm gonna go really fast because I know you can come back later. We might type up these steps and put them out into the description, but for now, just track along with me, right? I came into SAM, you gotta log in, right? This is the homepage of SAM. What I wanna do is come over here to search. What we're doing is setting up a search notice that will let me know RFIs are out there. So I hit search. I'm going to come down here and first thing I'm going to do is select domains and it's contract opportunities. I'm not going to explain the rest. That's what you want to do. And then as I go through, I told you, I don't really care about any of this stuff. All I care about is right here, notice types. I'm going to click the drop down and right here, it says sources sought. That's the only one I care about at the moment. And let me just pause for 1 second. I just hit it and I got 12,883 sources sought, right? Let's filter this a little bit more and say that that's hilarious, 12,000 active. Are there really 12,000 active? I would argue maybe not, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to give it one more thing. Right up here is dates. And I'm going to say, I want the response date. See right here, it says current response date. I want that response date to be, let's say, the next 90 days. And so I'm going to click here and say the next 3 months. Any RFI that's due in the next 3 months, I want to know about it. Generally, for my world, you never get that long of a window. You're only going to get 15, 30 days max on the average type opportunity. But if I come back up, right, there was 12,000. Now there's 765. This is what I meant by, and this is the entire setup, by the way. Let me just pause for 1 second, right? I chose the domain as contract opportunities. I set the date for the next 3 months, and I said only show me sources sought that are in the active status, right? That's the entire search that you want to do. I would not filter it down anymore. You chance losing an opportunity that was just mistyped or something. So now there's a couple of things we can do, but you notice that there's 765. Let me pause 1 second and say, this is what I mean when I say that I could look through all 765 in, I don't know, let's say an hour. But if I went through there and scrolled through for an hour, what else are you doing, right? We're in sales. So scroll through that the first time you do this. And then afterwards, you'll only be looking at 50 a day at most. And it's like a 15-minute task. So in here, one of the first things I want to do is come over to the actions. So I just set up this RFI, search basically. So I'm going to come over here to actions and I'm going to say save, right? And I'm going to give this a different title. So you can see I already did one yesterday. So I'm just going to do one today. Sources sought today. So you know the difference. But so now I've got a saved search. It's in there. Sam's tracking on it. The next thing I want to do, and I want to do this so that I can show you something else in a second. I'm going to download this whole search. The first time I'm going to download it. It just helps me, right? And so I don't care what the file name is or anything else. I just want to see it as a spreadsheet or CSV. So I'm going to say download. It's going to download. There it is. It's opening. While it's opening, I'm going to come back here and show you the notification because it might take a second to do that. It keeps trying to, well, okay, it wasn't that slow. So let me just stick with that thought. So here, when I come in and you see what was downloaded, hold on 1 second. Let me just color code all this stuff. Bold, view. This is just, I'm just trying to manage the spreadsheet. Okay, so as I come over, and let me just hold on 1 second. I'm just cleaning it up really quick. So let's say this is 25. Okay, so now I've got it lined up. It's easier for me to see. I can do one last thing, which is putting on a filter, and we're good to go. Okay, so one of the things that I would look at is I'm looking at when it was last published, right? If I chose just this, and let me get rid of these dates. If I say show me yesterday, how many were posted yesterday, right? I don't know if you can see, but the bottom is 70 new RFIs came in. Okay, so it's more than 50, but it's still really manageable. And I can scroll through here and begin to look at what I'm really looking at initially is this description. And one quick sidebar, right? I always say focus on an agency, focus on a core competency. But if I'm an expert at SharePoint and there's an RFI in some unrelated agency to what I'm targeting, it doesn't mean I'm not going to respond to that. I can respond to that, get in, write it, and get out. I'm not doing heavy business development into that one-off agency, but I am responding to that RFI to see if I can get traction on that. If you can find it in your sweet space. Okay, so here I would just be looking, and let me zoom in a little bit for you. So I would just start scrolling through all this activity, right? You can sort it in any way you want, but the point is, as I'm coming down, right, I want to come through and I just want to find ones that might look interesting to me. So I'm going to pop them out just so you can see. I'm looking at maintenance. So here's one. This one here, it's sources sought for acquisition management support services. That's a professional services type thing. It's something that I'm just going to highlight and say, hey, I want to go back and look at that later, right? And so there's different ones. Here's one for an Army data platform. Well, I'm on the Army services, right? if I go through here, by the way, for those of you in elevator services, I think I found like 5 that are elevator related, right? And I know you'd want to see those. So I just scroll through and I quickly am triaging these opportunities. I don't want to spend a lot of time in here because today's training is very quick, but you can see if you come down that you're going to find stuff that relates to what you do. I know we have people on here who are in the translation services, and that's in here. Here's, training services that they have. So there's a lot of stuff that's in here. This one here doesn't make any sense unless you know what UTEP is, right? But it's for 8A and small businesses. So you can look at a lot of these other fields. I don't actually track on the other fields because I don't want to be distracted by them. Over here, like set aside, I don't care about the set aside. If it's a RFI and it's in my sweet spot, I don't care if they're setting it aside to a woman-owned small business or not. If I think it's worthwhile to write to it, I'll be getting in front of the program managers responsible for SharePoint, even though this particular opportunity is something else. The other thing is I can write a response and say, I'm going to be looking for a woman-owned small business to team up with, et cetera. So anyways, I was talking about you can sort this any way you want, to triage it by NAICS. It's not NAICS code, it's NAICS description, which is really interesting. But it doesn't matter. With 70 or 100, all you have to do is what I just did. Just scroll through the RFIs and you're never going to miss another one. Let me come back here really quick. So we did a search, then we saved that search, right? And the last thing I want to do, and then we downloaded it for the first time to review it. But the last thing I want to show you is how you set up a notification. So they just send you an email every day when there's additional opportunities added that are RFIs or sources sought notices, right? So anything new into the search. All you have to do is come into that sources sought that I did. And when you come over to the actions, there's a download. A notify. And when you click notify, that's it. You're done. Notifications have been turned on. You'll get an email that looks like this. You get an email. Let me see if I can zoom in. How's that? You'll get an email that says, hey, Neil, here's your sources sought notification. And as you're going forward, if you want to see updates, you can click it. So here I can see the entire saved search if I want, for whatever reason you want to do that. But really, when I click on the notification, I can come in and see what was done since the last time I looked at it. So here's 115. You can do the scrolling. You can do it right here in SAM, right? And how long does it really take you to get through 100? Not long, 15 minutes. You can do that in SAM, or you can download this activity, this subset. But that's it. I mean, that's the whole activity of setting it up. So let me just really quickly remind you of the steps, right? The search side, you're just setting up a search notice that is saying next 3 months, sources sought is the notice type. And up here, the domain is contract opportunities. Those are the 3 fields. And you save it as a saved search under this action button, right? Save. And then you go over to the saved searches like this and click the action drop down and say notify instead of stop notify. All right. That's those 3 things. Let me come back and stop sharing here for a second and come back. I have one last thing I want to just talk to you about is how do I deal with this on a regular basis, right? I kind of already talked to you about it, but still, let me just share it with you. The first thing so you're going to set this search up and you're going to do, one day you'll spend an hour, maybe 2 hours looking at these RFIs and triaging. Doesn't matter how long you spend for 700, 800 RFIs. But then every day after that, you're going to look for, first thing you're going to look for is every morning, you're going to look for an email from Sam, right? Did it come in? You got an email. And it might have come in the evening. Doesn't matter when. You just look for that email from Sam, and then you spend 15 minutes, time block it, right? GSA will get on a regular schedule when they're sending you that email. Figure out when that is, and then time block some time that works for you, right? It doesn't matter if you hear about an RFI the exact day it comes out, right? That's just FOMO type world. It's enough that you hear about it within the first 48 hours, for example. So then you and your team, if you want to do something with it, have the maximum amount of time to be able to respond. But so spend 15 minutes every single day triaging those new RFIs that are in there. And again, don't ever refine it down. This is my recommendation to you. Look at them all. You begin to get an understanding of what's out there, what's being done. And it's very fast for you to be able to see it. But it also allows you to make sure you don't miss one that the government person, typed the wrong information, et cetera. And then the last thing, when you triage it and you decide, hey, these 5 I really like today or something, then let your team know. Let them know as soon as possible that these RFIs look great and here's why. If you don't have a process in place already that says why an RFI is great for your company, then go back and look at some of the training I've done on how to determine if an opportunity is good for you, right? It must be a slam dunk opportunity, or it must fit solidly in the space that you're looking for. So if you understand what I'm talking about here and how the process of setting this up in SAM and the process of every day taking 15 minutes to review RFIs so you never miss it again, if you understand this, just put RFIs rock in the chat. Let me know you're tracking on that. And I'm going to do a quick little recap of what we talked about today. And I want to give you this activity, right? So we talked about SAM, right? How to set it up and how to use it so it sends you RFIs so you never miss another RFI that's dropped in SAM. The tip for you, what I want you to go do today, like don't wait another day. Right now, before you go eat, before you go do anything else, spend 15 minutes and go set up this search for yourself, right? Block an hour on your schedule later today or tomorrow to review all of the RFIs that currently are active, and then block 15 minutes going forward. If you spend 15 minutes right now setting up the search, scheduling an hour to do the first review, and then scheduling your 15 minutes going out, if you set that all up, it'll take you less than 15 minutes to do, but you'll have moved yourself a lot forward on the RFI activity that you're doing. So if you'd like to work with my team or me, we have a course called BD Accelerator Workshop. We'd love to work with you if your company's in the right stage. It usually is you're making $1 million or more, you're already got traction. You just want to know how to get to the next level. So if you want to learn more, go ahead and DM me in LinkedIn, send me a message. And remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.